Hello everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Gates channel. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and hit like for more daily drama updates and spoilers. Your support truly means a lot and helps our channel grow every day. The tension surrounding Dani is far from over, and just when it seems like she might finally get a moment to breathe, another family grilling is waiting for her. It has only been a few days since Dani was forced to sit down with her family and answer their difficult questions. But on Monday's Beyond the Gates, she will once again find herself in the hot seat. This time, Anita and Vernon will be the ones pressing her for answers, determined to understand exactly what is happening between their daughter and Andre. Nicole, who has also been deeply concerned about Dani, will not be part of this particular grilling, leaving Anita and Vernon to face Dani on their own. They have watched Dani make choices that nearly destroyed her life before, and they are terrified that history is beginning to repeat itself. Their concern is not simply about Andre either, because they fear Dani is slowly being pulled back into Bill's dangerous orbit. And with every question they ask, the pressure surrounding Dani becomes heavier, making it harder for her to hide just how complicated things have become. Anita and Vernon know their daughter better than almost anyone, which is exactly why they refuse to sit quietly and watch her make another mistake. They know Dani has a tendency to blow up her own life when emotions take control, and they are determined not to let that happen again, even if protecting her means confronting her with uncomfortable truths. As they go toe-to-toe with Dani, the atmosphere is bound to become increasingly intense, because this is no longer a simple conversation between parents and their daughter. There is a much bigger secret hanging over the entire situation, and eventually, Dani may have to decide whether she is ready to tell her family how far things have actually gone with Bill. The longer she keeps the truth hidden, the more difficult it becomes to escape the questions surrounding her. Anita and Vernon are not likely to back down simply because Dani becomes defensive or emotional, especially when they believe they are fighting to keep her from falling into the same destructive patterns again. For Dani, the hot seat may be becoming a permanent place, and the real question is whether she will finally confess the truth or continue trying to keep her family in the dark. While Dani struggles under the weight of her family's suspicions, another deeply unsettling mystery begins pulling Chelsea back toward a fear she thought she had already survived. It has now been a full year since Allison kidnapped Chelsea, yet the trauma of that horrifying experience has clearly not disappeared simply because time has passed. Chelsea, a handbag designer who has fought to rebuild her life, is once again being overwhelmed by a storm of emotions, with fear rising above all the others. Just when she should have been able to look back on the past and feel that she had finally escaped it, mysterious phone calls begin disturbing her peace. The calls are especially frightening because the unknown person on the other end does not stay on the line long enough to reveal anything meaningful. The phone rings, Chelsea answers, and before she can understand who is calling or why, the caller hangs up, leaving her alone with questions that are far more terrifying than answers might have been. Every unexplained call threatens to reopen the wounds Allison left behind, forcing Chelsea to wonder whether the nightmare she thought was over could somehow be returning. But Chelsea has never been the kind of woman who allows fear to completely control her life, and that determination will once again come to the surface. Instead of simply sitting back and waiting for the mysterious calls to stop, she will undoubtedly begin digging for answers, determined to discover who is behind them and what they want from her. There is something deeply unsettling about not knowing whether the calls are harmless, threatening, or connected to the painful events of the past, and Chelsea will have to confront that uncertainty head on. The memories of being kidnapped by Allison are still close enough to the surface that even the smallest mystery can feel like a warning of something much darker approaching. Yet, rather than allowing those old fears to paralyze her, Chelsea is likely to turn that fear into determination and start searching for clues. She may not know where the investigation will lead, but she knows she cannot simply ignore what is happening. Fortunately, she may not have to face this frightening situation alone because the weekly teasers suggest that Kat will become an important source of comfort for her. Kat will likely be right there beside Chelsea when the fear becomes difficult to carry alone, offering the kind of support that can make even the darkest situation feel slightly less overwhelming. Their connection gives Chelsea someone she can lean on when the mysterious calls begin stirring memories she would rather leave buried. In moments like this, comfort does not necessarily come from having all the answers. Sometimes it comes from simply knowing that someone will stay by your side while you search for them. Kat may become that steady presence for Chelsea, helping her gather the courage to investigate what is happening rather than allowing the past to dictate her future. Yet, even with that support, the mystery surrounding the calls is unlikely to disappear quietly. The closer Chelsea gets to the truth, the more dangerous or emotionally complicated the situation could become, especially if the person calling has a connection to the nightmare she endured a year ago. And as Chelsea searches for answers, the drama elsewhere in town continues to unfold, bringing new confrontations and emotional battles into the lives of those connected to Bill. Meanwhile, Leslie is about to discover just how cold things can become when someone decides they are no longer willing to entertain her presence. The weekly spoilers indicate that Leslie will get the cold shoulder, suggesting that whatever interaction she is hoping for may not go the way she expects. At the same time, Ashley will give Haley exactly what she wants, creating another important development in the increasingly complicated situation surrounding Bill and the people in his life. Haley has clearly reached a point where she is no longer interested in quietly swallowing her frustrations or pretending everything is fine. The disrespect she believes she has been receiving has worn down her patience, and now she is increasingly willing to speak openly about the people around Bill. Her opinions are no longer staying buried beneath polite smiles or careful restraint, and that change could have serious consequences for everyone involved. The tension between Haley and Ashley has already been impossible to ignore, particularly during their icy run-ins at the hospital. Every encounter between them carries an uncomfortable chill, as though both women are measuring each other and waiting for the next confrontation to erupt. Haley is tired of feeling dismissed and disrespected, and she appears to have reached the point where keeping the peace is no longer worth remaining silent. Ashley, meanwhile, has her own perspective on the situation, and whatever she decides to give Haley on Monday could shift the balance of power surrounding Bill. The possibility that Ashley will grant Haley what she has been demanding is especially significant because it could mean Bill is finally released from the hospital. That would be a major development, not only for Bill himself, but for everyone whose lives have become tangled in the drama surrounding him. After everything that has happened, Bill's release could open the door to an entirely new chapter, one where the tensions that have been building inside the hospital finally spill out into the wider world. And that is where Monday's Beyond the Gates leaves viewers with several questions hanging in the air at once. Dani is trapped beneath the relentless questions of Anita and Vernon, while the secret she is keeping about Bill continues to threaten her already fragile relationship with her family. Chelsea, meanwhile, is being forced to confront the possibility that the fear Allison left behind has not truly disappeared, especially now that mysterious phone calls are disturbing her peace and pulling painful memories back into the present. Kat may provide the emotional strength Chelsea needs, but the identity and intentions of the unknown caller remain dangerously unclear. At the same time, Haley is done accepting the disrespect she believes she has endured, and Ashley's willingness to give her what she wants could have major consequences if it leads to Bill finally walking out of the hospital. With Leslie receiving the cold shoulder and tensions continuing to rise around Bill and everyone connected to him, Monday's episode promises to push several fragile situations closer to the breaking point. As old fears return, family secrets threaten to surface, and long-simmering conflicts move toward confrontation, the next chapter of Beyond the Gates is shaping up to be filled with emotional pressure, unanswered questions, and the kind of dramatic twists that could change everything. The deeper these stories move into Monday's drama, the clearer it becomes that none of these characters are dealing with simple problems anymore. Dani's family believes they are trying to save her from another disastrous decision. But from Dani's perspective, every question may feel like another attempt to corner her before she is ready to reveal the truth. Anita and Vernon are not approaching this conversation casually. because they have already seen what happens when Dani allows complicated relationships and powerful emotions to take control of her choices. Their determination comes from love, but that love may not make their interrogation any easier for Dani to endure. Every pause, every defensive reaction, and every carefully chosen answer could make them even more suspicious that she is hiding something much bigger than she has admitted. And somewhere beneath all of that pressure is the uncomfortable question Dani may be desperately trying to avoid. Just how deeply has Bill managed to pull her back into his world? For Dani, the danger may not simply be that her family discovers what has happened, but that once the truth is spoken aloud, there will be no way to take it back. She has already spent time trying to manage the consequences of her choices, and admitting the full extent of her involvement with Bill could force everyone around her to look at her differently. Anita and Vernon may react with anger, disappointment, fear, or some painful combination of all three, especially if they believe Dani has ignored every warning they have given her. Yet beneath their frustration is the fear that they could lose their daughter to the same destructive cycle they have watched threaten her before. They want to believe Dani can still pull herself away before the damage becomes permanent, but they also know that hope becomes harder to hold on to with every secret she keeps. That is why Monday's confrontation carries so much emotional weight, because it is not merely about answering questions. It is about whether Dani can finally stop running from the truth long enough to confront what she has allowed to happen. At the same time, Chelsea's situation carries an entirely different kind of fear, one that creeps into ordinary moments and turns them into potential threats. A mysterious phone call might seem insignificant to someone who has never experienced what Chelsea endured, but after being kidnapped by Allison, the sound of an unknown caller hanging up could carry an entirely different meaning. A year may have passed, but trauma does not always follow the calendar. An old fear can return with astonishing speed when something reminds a survivor of what happened. Chelsea may try to convince herself that the calls are nothing, yet every unanswered question can feed the anxiety growing inside her. Who is calling? Why are they refusing to speak? And why have these calls started now? Those questions are likely to stay in Chelsea's mind long after the phone stops ringing, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty that could become increasingly difficult to escape. Still, Chelsea's strength will likely keep her from becoming completely consumed by fear. She has already survived something that could have broken her spirit, and the fact that she is willing to investigate these calls shows that she refuses to surrender the life she fought to rebuild. Instead of waiting for someone else to tell her what is happening, she will probably begin looking for the connection herself, examining whatever clues she can find and trying to determine whether the calls are connected to Allison or to something entirely different. That investigation could become dangerous if Chelsea gets too close to whoever is behind the mystery, but she may feel that not knowing is even more frightening. Kat's presence could make all the difference during this period, giving Chelsea someone she trusts when the memories become too heavy. If Chelsea begins to doubt her own instincts, Kat can remind her that fear does not mean she is powerless, and that the past does not automatically have control over the future. While Chelsea searches for answers, the atmosphere surrounding Bill continues to grow more volatile. Haley has reached the end of her patience, and the icy encounters with Ashley at the hospital have only made her more determined to stop accepting the treatment she feels she has received. There is a difference between being frustrated and finally deciding that enough is enough, and Haley appears to be crossing that line. She is no longer keeping her thoughts to herself, and the people connected to Bill are increasingly finding out exactly what she thinks of them. That willingness to speak openly could make Haley a much more unpredictable force in the days ahead. Because once someone stops caring about keeping everyone comfortable, they can become impossible to control. Ashley's decision to give Haley what she wants therefore becomes much more significant than it might initially appear. If that decision results in Bill being released from the hospital, the consequences could spread quickly through every relationship already strained by his presence. Bill walking out of the hospital would mean the situation is no longer contained within those tense hallways and private confrontations. Suddenly, The people who have been watching, waiting, arguing, and worrying would have to deal with Bill directly again, and that could reopen conflicts that had temporarily been pushed aside. Haley may believe getting what she wants will finally give her some control over the situation, but freedom for Bill could create an entirely new set of problems. Ashley may also have reasons for making the decision she does, and those reasons could become clearer once Bill is no longer confined to a hospital bed. The possibility of his release therefore hangs over Monday's episode like a fuse already burning, waiting for the right moment to ignite. And while all of this unfolds, Leslie's cold shoulder adds another layer to the shifting relationships around them. Being deliberately ignored can sometimes hurt more than an argument because it leaves the rejected person with no clear way to respond. Leslie may have expected attention, cooperation, or at least acknowledgement, only to discover that the people around her are no longer interested in giving her the response she wants. That rejection could create its own tension, especially if Leslie refuses to simply walk away. Meanwhile, Haley's growing confidence and Ashley's decision could place them at the center of the unfolding drama, even as Dani and Chelsea face completely different battles of their own. Every storyline seems to be moving toward a moment where secrets, fears, and personal frustrations can no longer remain contained. The most unsettling part of Monday's developments is that each character is standing at the edge of something they cannot fully see yet. Dani is surrounded by family members who are determined to uncover the truth. Chelsea is staring into a mystery that threatens to awaken the darkest memories of her past. And Haley is preparing to act on emotions she has been carrying for far too long. Kat may become Chelsea's safe place, while Anita and Vernon continue pushing Dani toward an uncomfortable confession. Ashley's decision could determine whether Bill returns to the outside world, and if he does, the balance between everyone involved could change almost instantly. What begins as a family interrogation, a few unexplained phone calls, and another tense hospital encounter could ultimately become the beginning of much bigger consequences. And as these characters move forward, one thing is certain. The secrets they have been protecting are becoming harder to hide, and the emotional walls they have built around themselves may soon come crashing down.